There we go. Okay. Welcome to spring, everybody. The sun's popping out a little bit. The birds are chirping. There's buds on the trees, grass coming in. Some have daffodils and other things going on, but I'm feeling this overall sense of renewal, rebirth, and a new hope. And I'm so grateful. And in the last reading that Sherry and Renee just did about communion and Thanksgiving, so grateful for nature's lessons. And even this past year, which is hard to say for some of us. Excuse me. Thank you, Tapash, for lifting my vibration and our vibration. Those songs and the singing in the frequencies is such a beautiful way for us to get higher and higher out of the everyday mind. So I'm going to start today by talking about this collective fourth dimensional elephant in the room. Now, I've learned this year that elephants hold a fifth dimensional, very loving vibration, which is collaborative, unconditional, and in resonant flow with the other elephants for the highest and greatest of all. And as many of you know, dolphins, whales, if you see a flock of birds and how they fly so synchronistically. If you've ever seen hundreds of dolphins swimming together in the ocean, this divine collaborative flow, it's very clear that they are much wiser than our collective consciousness currently as a humanity. I truly believe that is changing though. And even just everyone in the Zoom rooms right now, the Zoom room and our membership and the wonderful people here, I often feel that flow with all of you, and I appreciate you all so very much. So yeah, this elephant in the room is that it's been a really long, hard year. For some of us here, way, way more than others. It's all relative. Renee, I thank you for trusting your intuition this morning to play The Sound of Silence and that version. Part of my talk today is about trusting your intuition. And Renee and I often have this beautiful collaborative flow going without even ever talking to each other. So it fits in really perfectly with what I'm going to say today. So thank you. Not everything always feels good. We've been collectively walking through a dark night of the soul. Fear staring us in the face saying, let's dance. On the news, in conversations with family, friends, there's no escaping it unless you're being a hermit. And even as the hermit, we have thoughts, we have dreams, we try to understand, conceptualize. How we conceptualize it and what we believe it is becomes the vibration that we hold in our bodies, which is why meditation, chanting are also important things to get us out of that gooky feeling sometimes. When fear is concerned, we can take every yucky thought of what comes in and run with it, or we can consciously and wisely choose to step over it. If we choose to step in the fear rabbit hole, it can lead to some interesting tales, often that are not even true. And they often play out in the screen in front of us in our daily lives. So how do we minimize fear in our lives as we come into this beautiful spring season of hope and love, as nature always holds us in love, even during our challenging times? My talk today is called The Wisdom of the Rabbit. Around springtime last year, I began seeing rabbits all over the place. When we become mindfully aware that we are projecting our reality outside of us, we can see how our thoughts and beliefs play out on the stage in front of us through the cast of characters, whether they be animals, people, lots of different ways to know. All aspects ultimately of us. When we truly integrate this knowledge, we have the understanding that out there can inform and help us to alter our states of consciousness within. That out there can be filled with signposts of where we are resonating. Fear, shame, guilt, judgment, low self-worth, confusion, peace, joy, laughter, fun, love. They all carry a very different frequency. So the rabbit started showing up every time I had a fear thought and happened to be in nature, whether I was driving in my car, walking in the woods. And after 3 or 4 times, it became quite clear that I was starting to cosmically dance with the rabbit, and this rabbit had a lot to teach me. And I started out being frustrated with it. I was judging the rabbit. I thought it was not an animal that was a good spirit guide for me because it was always associated with this feeling of angst that I had. Our challenges often bring us the greatest insights, and in time, wisdom. So over time, I started to realize that the rabbit, like some people in our lives, can be our greatest teacher for where we are at, where we are vibrating. I spent a lot of times, as many of you have, descending into fear rabbit holes this year, shrinking my divine nature, which ultimately is not even possible to do that. Like Alice in Wonderland, shrinking herself to descend in her fear rabbit hole, following the rabbit, finding all sorts of players, playing cards, weird freaky cats, mad hatters, and so on and so forth. All reflections of me. I often ask myself why we hold on to fear so tightly in our society. And I often get because we were taught to. The examples outside of us continually show us reasons to fear. The weather, relationships, viruses, security with money, state of affairs, our children. Often when we don't hold so tightly to having this control and worry, and when we surrender to divine time, divine will, we can start feeling this joyously flowing vibration, and that all comes to us when it's supposed to and when we need it, even our challenges. Whenever I see a fuzzy white dandelion, another signpost for me that I sort of intended and created, I guess you could say subconsciously. If any of you have watched the movie Avatar and the little seeds that are dancing around Jake when he comes to work with the people, whenever I see one of those little white dandelion seeds, I always say to myself, Awa has heard you. In the movie, the scene where they prayed to their planet Mother Earth at Home Tree, and she delivered, and then she ended up delivering, and they were doubting it a little bit, and they were in awe. So whenever I see those, I say, Awa has heard you. Mother Earth is listening to my prayer, is listening to my dream. So there are signposts everywhere if we look at what our outer reality is trying to show us. The divine dance with Mother Earth to create from an open, free quantum field. We're all energy, not one bogged down with sludge of fear, regret, and guilt, one of faith and trust, of our intuitive knowing. So combined with the intense fear moments this year, I also found the most loving souls I've ever known in my life. And it was one of intense highs and super intense lows. It was a dark night of the soul, really, for all of us. We were pushed beyond our comfort zones, and we were shown what we are made of. And I'm so proud of everyone here, because just the triumphs, the lessons, the tears, it was a phenomenal year, really. We were given the opportunity after opportunity to show our mastery of all the spiritual attainment we had thought we integrated. Since the lovely rabbit appeared in the spring last year, and we just had Easter, I was reminded of its important lesson, and to really do some spring cleaning on my mirror that is reflecting out my core beliefs about self into my outer reality. The allowance of abundance in my life, thinking big, the worthiness of achieving or receiving, as we often only receive to the level that we expect to or believe to. Reminders to not let out there inform my temple, but rather have my temple inform out there. We're kind of like bubbles that way. When we hold a vibration of love, it positively impacts every bubble around us. It can be felt far and wide like a domino effect. And just being love can change an entire planet. But it takes time. It takes mindfulness. It takes dedication, commitment, and discipline. It's harder to actually do that. Over time, it gets easier, I think. I learned that fear and trust go hand in hand. And when we feel fear, we don't trust that we are okay, that we are safe. We think we can be harmed somehow. And many of us have struggled with trusting ourselves, trusting our intuition. When we meditate and connect to our higher selves, our soul, divinity, we sometimes receive guidance that is so opposed to what others think we should do. We question ourselves. We question the guidance, the gut feeling, the inner knowing that we must do something or say something. I recently posted on my Net of Love Instagram page to be rest assured that if it is your calling, it will keep calling. It comes back around again and again, our soul journey, our path. If any of you are familiar with author Gabby Bernstein, she recently had a quote that said, "No one else is supposed to understand your calling. It wasn't a conference call." We sometimes forget that. Other than with Source, over and over this past year, I kept hearing, trust yourself. It is a radical venture in self-love, a really fun and rewarding one, to trust yourself. But how can we truly feel a heaven on earth scenario if we don't trust ourselves to follow our divine guidance and to not let fear dictate our reality? Just as the tree instinctually knows to grow upward toward the love of the sun, as the baby sea turtle runs fiercely and so adorably to the ocean, as the birds fly south for the winter, we know those inner passions are bliss. That is our calling, our path. And when we align to them, we can feel great states of joy because it's what brings us joy. I also learned this year that any ridicule from others is most often the reflection of my own judgment about myself regarding the situation. I'm going to say that again. I learned that any ridicule from others is most often the reflection of my own judgment that I'm holding for myself about that situation. I watched it play out so many times this year, and it blew me away. If you are being judged, ask if you are also judging yourself for what that person is judging you for. This reflection, this vibration. So I've been doing a lot of spring cleaning on my hall of mirrors, the reflections I see outside of me from my own operating system. This work, it's worth it. And the price to follow our soul's journey is right. Weighing the cost of not following our path or our gut feeling or something we feel we need to do that's important. It's like this, if we don't follow it, it's like nothing lost, nothing gained. But that feels sort of empty to me. I like the no risk, no reward stance better. For our path is our destiny. It's our calling, our all-knowing of what we came here for and what we need to do. And it begins with healing ourselves of all of the trauma and distortions that are not loving toward neighbor and self. I see fear as an obstacle to loving ourselves, because how can we fully love ourselves if we don't trust ourselves to be safe, if we don't trust Mother Earth to keep us safe? There's an author who I worked with in the education field. His name is Mark Perna, and he has a book called Answering Why. It's really good, and talks about the millennial generation, and it's sort of it's for everybody, but it's a lot of really targeted toward employers to try to understand the millennial generation because they see things very different. And I learned while I was doing that work that I am in the millennial generation, so I'm just at the cusp there. So it's kind of cool to be able to walk between both worlds a little bit, because I do have some of these characteristics within me as well. So he talks about the millennial generation. I'm going to paraphrase a little bit. And he says that they're not afraid to try something new because they know there's a safety net for them. They follow their hearts. They're not concerned with the necessarily the appeasing or the doing what other people want them to do. They're truly hearts wide open, following their hearts and dreams. And often for employment are looking for stepping stones to get somewhere else, not to make a whole career, one job out of a whole life. So do we not follow our hearts and dreams sometimes because we think if we jump, we will fall flat on our face? We choose with intentions as creators to trust the net or to fear that we're going to fall. Again, this polarity, we can always choose which side we want to connect to with polarity. It's kind of like a trust fall, ultimately trusting ourselves with all of our decisions, even if we make mistakes. So as the rabbit was my signpost for fear, there are also other many wonderful attributes of the spirit totem of a rabbit, often viewed as a sign of good luck, abundance, creativity, and fertility. So over time with the rabbit, I consciously chose to positively polarize my rabbit friend as a dear, trusting friend, showing me to be mindful, to focus on my intention and what I want to create versus the fear I was about to step into. Fear being the opposite of what we don't want. A little boy said the other day, that the word crush can be how you love someone, or it can be how you destroy something. This, my friends, is duality in the fourth dimension, where we're playing out these scenarios over and over. But ultimately, we choose. We are the creators. We choose which end of the pendulum swing we are going to focus on and be in. And it's hard because we have these neural pathways that kind of, put us toward this more victim consciousness. But when we truly understand that we are creators and we are holding the vibration for what we are doing every single day in our thoughts and our minds, in our heart, we can be the ones that adjust this and change this and heal these pathways and create new pathways. I watched a talk by Lori Ladd this past week, and she was talking about how this mindful creation is like walking out onto a dance floor, and we get to pick our dance partner. We are sovereign. We are not victims. Sometimes we have bad days and sometimes we have bad months, and that's okay. The whole point she was trying to make is that we can choose different consciousnesses to align with. One of my most brilliant divine masculine guides will often say to me when I'm going down a fear rabbit hole or being negative. For example, I'll just use the example, they don't like me, or I hate this. He simply says, if you choose for them not to like you, if you choose to hate this, rewriting the scripts on how others see us and how we see ourselves can be very powerful. So Lori talks about mindfully picking your dance partner. Are you going to pick that shame, guilt, fear victim, or are you going to pick peace, joy, bliss, fun, freedom? Those lower aspects of ourselves are most often the mind wars that we play, our separateness. The longer the dance with those that create those mind wars, the worse we feel over time. And again, it affects our vibration. I pulled a card after one of those like angel cards after seeing a dear friend of mine for a holistic health consult a few weeks ago. And the card said, the work I'm doing on myself is a lifetime process. It doesn't matter how much time it takes because I have all the time in the world. Being kind to yourself. So trust your intuition, trust your path, even if it's not popular or a collective norm. Even if everything outside of you is telling you that you're wrong, you're not worthy of abundance, or you're somehow crazy. Your higher self knows. You can't always see the roadmap from down here, from this third, fourth dimensional, remember the fourth dimensional is those polarity things that we choose to grapple onto. We get stuck in those polarities sometimes, playing out that separation. But when we connect and we go up in love to our higher self, especially through meditation, or like John with chanting, we can feel and see the truth of the whole darn thing. It's why meditation is so important, to get out of that everyday monkey mind that spins all sorts of tornadoes. And we often pull others into those tornadoes, intentionally or unintentionally. From this higher state of consciousness, excuse me. All right, there we go. From this higher state of consciousness, we see our collective path as one. We begin to swim like dolphins in the ocean, knowing that our consciousness is completely connected to everyone around us. And that when I look in your eyes, I see me. And if I was in your shoes with the same circumstances, I ultimately would have made the same decisions as you did. When we judge others, we are often judging ourselves. So don't ever let anyone tell you your dream or your fairy tale or your dreamscape that you go off into is wrong or delusional or absurd. It's your inner child that knows your truth, that knows your path. Know that anyone that is telling you those things is ultimately you wrestling with them yourself, not believing in them, or you not believing in yourself. It's a powerful mirror. Hold in the all-knowing that you are the divine creator of your dreams, your wishes. They are your soul resonance for what you chose to experience here. And when you hold this knowing, you model it for others so their dreams can come to fruition. The dreams of our planet, for ourselves, for peace, love, and happiness of all beings. Cinderella said it so beautifully when she sang, "A dream is a wish your heart makes when you are fast asleep. In dreams, you can lose your heartaches. Whatever you wish for, you keep. Have faith in your dreams, and someday your rainbow will come smiling through. No matter how your heart is grieving, if you keep on believing, the dream that you wish will come true. The glass slipper, the ruby slippers, they will always fit. They will always bring us our greatest dreams and wishes effortlessly when we hold the resonance of love in our hearts. Because you have intended, trust, and are resonating with the shoe fitting, the universe will be rigged in your favor. When holding this vibration over time, it starts coming back in waves of unimaginable peace and love from others as well, because we're not judging ourselves so harshly anymore. I believe the power of self-love is the greatest power on this planet. Not egoic, boasting love for self, but quiet, serene awareness of who we truly are, our divine God self. I'm going to end with a lyric from one of my favorite songs. And you may laugh when I tell you this, but I used to play this song back in high school when I would be rejected or my heart would get broken. And I would listen to the song and I'd be like, nope, he's not the one. The ultimate realization here, the greatest lesson, is that no one can do that for you except for you. You are the one you've been waiting for. The ultimate love inside reflects to ultimate love outside. Here are the words to the song. Sitting on the beach, the island king of love, deep in Fijian seas, deep in some blissful dream, where the goddess or God finally sleeps in the lap of their lover, subdued in all her rage, and I'm aglow with the taste of the demons driven out and happily replaced with the presence of real love, the only one who saves. I want to dance with you. As you leave today and enjoy your Sunday, enjoy your divine dance and your divine dance partners. And when you get one that is not so loving, thank him or her for the lesson, embrace them in it with love, and change dance partner. As you have the key, the ring of master keys of consciousness. And if the shoe doesn't fit, you don't have to wear it. I love you all so dearly. We are one. Thank you.